Oh yeah, I mean, not in that way or on that level, but he's very non. He is
We're
not
talking nice things about Chabad.
but he's not a proselytizer.
No, not at all.
He's not evangelical. He doesn't do the messianic bit to the point that you feel like he. And they're hidden upstairs a picture of Rebbe, but it's not downstairs. You don't have to stare at it. In other words, he doesn't seem to be.
Okay. We are on Daf. What's up here? Tezayim Alf. Here are the two dots. 5 lines down. And all those forbidden to read in the Torah. Milikros Torah. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said, what's the pasuk which teaches us this? Vein dover elov dover. It says nobody can speak to him anything. Okay? Amalei Shimon Lakish vafil dover shel Torah, even a word of Torah. Amalei Shimon Lakish, but said Kol Garmei. This is an amazing statement. Kol Garmei, his entire being, meaning the guy who kicked the bucket. Ilutana, were he to have learned law of a mice, he wouldn't have died. The reason why he died is because he wasn't learning. So therefore, you want the Avel to stop learning. That's exactly counterproductive. Then the Avel himself will have to die, right? So it says Mar Maikadun. Well, so how does Rish Lakish learn the pasuk, which says Vein Dover Love Davar? So Kai Damar Rabbi Yehuda Bar Pati B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yehuda Bar Pati the name Rabbi Yochanan B'Shlo Yoding B'Amel Iftoach Lo. That's talking about by Eov, by Job. They didn't know what to say to him, because they had to console him. But what are they going to still console him with first? Imagufo, about his body, which was covered with all sorts of boils and afflictions. Imono, about his money, which he had lost. Imanevish Bonav Nosover, about his sons and daughters who had died. So they didn't know what to say to him. But Reish Lakish holds a person who's a scholar, a person should learn during Afelos. On the contrary, if a person doesn't learn, he's missing the whole lesson of why that guy died. And along those lines, we have two stories here. Chad Talmid min the Rav Chisda. A certain student of Chisda, Ivish, became sick. Shalach le'trein talmidim, so Rav Chisda sent him 2 students, the Yatnu Nimei, who should learn with him. Isavi kumin kamin chive, so the Malach HaMavis, the angel of death, came and made himself before them like a snake. V'yivsukun, they stopped learning. In other words, they were learning in the room, they stopped. V'damach, and then the guy died. So we see that were there to be perennial Torah study, in the presence of the individual who is sick, he would not be able to be killed. So the Malach HaMavis first has to get them to stop. Another student, Chatam in the Bar Pedoya, a student of the sage Bar Pedoya, even she got sick. Sholch trained Talmidim, so they sent he sent the two students. The Asimei learned with him, with the sick person. I guess is Avi Kumein Kumin Kolchava. So the Malach HaMavis became in front of them like a star. This school they stopped the Domach and he died.
Tell a story about David and Melech.
Right, I don't know why they didn't tell a story about King David here when he died. I don't know, it's a good question. But it's a similar idea, that he stepped on a step and he stopped learning for a moment, and that's when the Malach HaMavis got him.
He goes rustling in the trees.
Right, rustling in the trees and went to sea. And Rav Chisda, there's also stories of Rav Chisda himself at the end of his life, which somebody asked why they didn't mention, but I don't know. Time we learned, Avel Shona B'Makom Sheinu Ragil.
You know what I mean? Maybe because David and Melech wasn't sick. These people were sick. David and Melech, I knew he was going to die on Shabbos, but he wasn't necessarily.
He wasn't sick at the time he went. Could be. The Chiddush is that even if they're sick, it's still the Malach HaMavis can't get you unless you stop learning. Tani Avel Shona B'Makom Sheinu Ragil. And Avel... What?
What does it mean to stop learning in this context?
To stop preoccupying one's mind with Torah thoughts.
As opposed to
constant preoccupation. The Malach HaMavis can't get you as long as you're preoccupied with Torah.
So you're learning if it's on your mind.
I think so. I don't think you have to literally speak the words necessarily constantly. Okay? So,
Preoccupation.
Tani, we learned Avel Shonu b'Makom Sheinu Ragil. An Avel can learn in a place, not necessarily a physical location, but in an area of Torah, where he's not normally accustomed to learning, which is an interesting concept. He's not allowed to learn something which is customary, he's allowed to listen to something new, learn something new. Kiada, like a case Rabbi Yasa Avli Uvda, he had a case where he was in Avelus, he was sitting Shiva. Shalach Rabbi Yochanan sent him train Talmidim, 2 students, Yasanim, you should learn with him. So in Mishum the Shari Lo Yadin, we do not know if that's because Rabbi Yochanan decided he's going to permit an Avel to learn Torah, V'im Mishum Lo Raki Lo Yadin, or if they learned with him something which he wasn't normally accustomed to, and that's why they sent them to learn Torah. Says Rabbi Yasi Lo Ragil, Rabbi Yasi wasn't accustomed to learn Kol Torah Kula, he learned everything. Ela Kagon Ilam Meilm D'Rabbanan. No, there are such cases. There's such as these, the words of the rabbis. The Bar Nosh Nishtayabo, and a person asks a question about them. In other words, a practical halachic question, became le command l'oragil, and concerning this you stand like someone who's not accustomed, meaning it's like an application which you're not accustomed to thinking about, so therefore that's actually like a new area of Torah for that person. So they're coming and asking him new questions. Says Rabbi Yossi Bar Petrus. Rabbi Yossi Petrus was Chambuid Rabbi Shua ben Levi Kamai, who was the first follower of Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Havli Uvde, it's the case when it's Avelus. Sholchlei Bar Kapar, so Bar Kapar sent him trained Talmidim, 2 students, the Yasim Ei Shalom with him. We don't, in the Shari, is if it's because he allows learning Torah Lo Yadin, we do not know. V'imishum Shalot Achar Torah, or because Rabbi Yossi Bar Petrus, even though theoretically he should not be learning, since he had such a tremendous fiery inclination towards learning Torah, so that's why they permitted for him as a special case. The Tanya came, we also learned this in the Brisa. Imayalot Achar Torah, the V'tam Chacham is is absorbed in learning Torah in such a fiery fashion. He's aflame with Torah. So then, mutter, even when he's in Avel, he's allowed to learn Torah as well. Okay, so special dispensation for people on Avelus if that's their life force, constantly be learning Torah.
Isn't it customary just to learn just Avelus?
That's customary nowadays because we don't have this leniency. Okay, says more further. When the first white line now. Al code of armor of a Torah kohen ma'avitamin. Anything which is mentioned in Torah that a kohen can go to defile himself or make himself impure. For those relatives, Yisrael misabel aleim. No misabel. For those relatives, a regular Jew can mourn sit shiva. Hosifaleim, they added to them. The Rabbanan, they added to these listed in the Torah. Achiv v'achoso me'imo, that you sit shiva for your brother and sister from your mother's side. V'achoso me'suan, also your married sister. Even though Kohen does not go to Levaya of these relatives. On all these, misabel, you keep shiva. V'onei, and you're an onei until they're buried. Avolomi tamei, but a Kohen is not allowed to go to the cemetery for these individuals if they die. Our Rusasa, also women to whom you're affianced, meaning you got kiddushin, but not nisuin. Lo misabel, you may not go to, you do not mourn for them. V'lo onein, nor are you an onein for them, meaning that you're do not have to revive yourself, burying them to somebody else. V'lo mitamein, of course you're going, don't go to their levayas, for your fiancee's levaya to her burial.
What do Yisrael would?
Yisrael can go anytime he wants, sure.
No, I mean, Yisrael would sit shiva for a...
No. In this case, the Yisrael is no different than the Kohen. Okay? He wouldn't sit shiva either. I mean, it seems that you're allowed to sit shiva for anybody you want. Truth is, you can sit shiva for a goy. But you just can't become an onein for a goy. You're only an onein for relatives who are coming upon you to bury, and this is not one of them. No Gemara? Somebody stole your Yerushalmi, huh? The extra one in the room. Or you can look in. It's up to you. Okay. Tani. That's a madrega one. Someday people will be stealing Yerushalmis. That's what we look forward to that day. Okay. Is that an interesting article? That was cruel on my part, but I couldn't restrain myself. I'm sorry. Okay. Or okay.
Work cycle move.
Says more further. Tani, we learned Kosh misabli love misabli imo. That's an interesting case, interesting thing. This goes back to what we said yesterday. That let's say if there's a parent who's an avelus, so his son, who's a grandson deceased, also should, act in solidarity with the parent who's sitting shiva, or vice versa, right? So along those lines, let's say your wife's brother dies. Okay, in other words, it's somebody who's related to, but indirectly. So then the same idea, and that's what Gemara is going to say here. Okay, so it says Gemara, Tani kosh misabli Allah misabli imo. Anytime you have avelus for this person, will need to be your relative, you're misabel with him as well. So in other words, the example is Rav damchas achsei. Rav, his sister died. He told Chia, his son, who was a nephew of the deceased, right, to Amalei, so he said, when you come to my presence, Habishal Sandal, take off your sandals. Again, show solidarity with me because I'm an avelus for your uncle, even though he himself, the nephew, has no avelus on the uncle, but when he's in the presence of his father, who is an avelus for the uncle, so then he should act in avelus as well. Okay? So says the Gemara, so again, if let's say wife is sitting sister shiva on her brother, so the same idea, the husband, when he's in the presence of his wife, should demonstrate some sign of solidarity. Okay? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Mona, the fifth wide line. Rabbi Mona having benoid Rabbi Chanina Choy Mason. Rabbi Mona, the son of Rabbi Chanina's brother died, so his nephew died. Asim Mishalom Rabbi Yossi, so they came and asked Rabbi Yossi, Ma'lich Bos Samita. Does he himself have to lower his bed because his nephew died? Armalon Lotzeres, he said, no, it's not necessary. Ma'lich Sharagai Mita Kfuya, does he have to sleep on a lower bed? Armalon Lotzeres said, it's not necessary. Ma'lich Kros Es Shema V'Lispala. What about reading Shema and davening? So, in other words, is he exempt from what?
Sounds like being an onen.
Yes, he's exempt from davening and saying Shema because he has the status of an onen. So it says the Gemara, I'm alone. So he said to them, let's learn from here. So he was involved with a dead person, bekever to bury him. And the time came for Shema. Porish Tari goes to a place of Tara, meaning away from the mace. Lovish is tefillah, he puts on his tefillin. It says Shmani davens. So even a person who's actually burying, as long as he's not a close relative, is not exempt from Shema. So certainly he, who's an uncle, is not exempt from Shema as well. Okay? Rabbi Isai, what's going on? You're talking about it? Are we short one? Two. Okay, we're relying on you. We're relying on you. If you need to make a phone call, the Mashgiach's office is open.
It's 11 o'clock at
Yeah, I don't want to stop at 11 o'clock. Gee, thanks. They're so kind. From when do you lower the beds? Now, we don't actually do this anymore, lowering the beds. It's kind of an archaic practice. The Gemara is going to talk about that later on. But this is something which used to do, the Gemara is going to describe in great detail what they did. Once the dead corpse leaves the opening of the courtyard, from the time that the grave is sealed. Once they left the opening courtyard, said to students, lower the beds. When the grave was shut, Rabbi Shua said to the students, lower the beds. So they said, lower them based on the say so of the old man, meaning Rabbi Lezer. On Friday afternoon, you raise your beds again. You lower the beds again. Tani, we learned Dargosh. Dargosh is a bed which is made of straps, which go from side to side, and on top of that you put your mattress. So you don't have to loosen the mattress, loosen the straps. So you just turn the Dargosh on its side. You turn it sideways.
Submarines.
What?
They have those in submarines.
In submarines? It's like something like a hammock. Yeah, something like a hammock. So you turn on its side. So the Vena's niskefetz is put on its side. Vena nichbeis, not lowered. Shimbelos no. Show me you lower the straps which hold it in place. The dial, and that suffices, but you have to lower them. Rabbi Yosef B'Shem Rabbi Shimon Levi said, look, Shimon Levi, you got to lower the straps. Rabbi Yaakov B'Shem Rabbi Yossi said, Mito shenakitel limbi ordini ma. This is a very interesting halacha. None of this isn't Bavli, I think. If you have a bed which has a canopy on it, those have two-poster canopy. It's like a tent coming down on top of the bed. So actually, you don't have to lower the bed. Shomtam v'dayin, to remove those canopy posts, and that's sufficient. Why? Because the whole concept of Kovenant Mitzvah is not to literally lower the bed, but to go down a notch in stature. So therefore, if it was a canopy bed, to remove the canopy suffices. Okay? Says the Gemara.
Or you remove a box spring if you have a...
Right, that would suffice too. Even a pillow.
Pillow, yeah. Just sleep on two pillows.
Yeah. Right. Even a pillow suffices. As long as you're going down, ratcheting down, that's sufficient. Okay?
When you say in stature, do you mean just in
comfort or elegance? Not necessarily height. Because you can move a canopy. That suffices. You're not lowering the bed physically in that case. Okay?
Just making it more painful.
Right. Well, not even. No, the canopy doesn't make it more. Lack of canopy doesn't necessarily make it more painful.
Just makes it less.
You'll see why in a minute.
Okay.
There's a reason for this. What's a ben and what's a dargash? Anytime the belts or the straps or strips of leather which hold in place go over the board, the poles, anytime there are notches in the poles to hold those straps, zoy dargash, that's a dargash. V'atinon, as Marcus says, we learn hamita varisa, a bed and a couch. When are they makabel tuma? When can they become defiled? When they're completed, which is mishufein be'or hadag. Once you smooth them with fish oil, that was done in order to prevent splinters. Okay, so so if you're putting the straps over the top of the bed, shuffle. Why are you rubbing it with oil? You're not going to get splinters anyway because the straps are going over the top. So Rabbi said, resolve it. Bilin arsa, so kesar yoso. Caesarean beds. These linikman, which have holes in them. Now, why do you lower the beds? Rabbi Christopher. Rabbi Yochanan. What?
Did you say cesarean?
That's what it says here, yeah.
Like rolling beds?
Right.
With holes in it.
You have to have been there. Right. Okay. When I see this, I know you have to lower beds. Rabbi Christopher Rabbi Yochanan said, Vayishvu ito la'aretz. For friends of Eov sat with him to the ground. Al oretz ain't ksiv kan. It doesn't say on the ground. Ela v'yeshvu ito la'aretz, to the ground. So what does it mean to the ground? Ela davashu samach la'aretz, it's not on the ground literally, but on something which is near the ground. You can't see shame on mitas kvus. Here we learned that they slept on lowered beds. By kapurim, why do we lower the beds? It's to say, Hashem says to us, I had one good image in your house. It's Tzel Elokim, man created the image of God. You gramtayin l'chvos, and you caused me to lower it to the ground. Afatok faking me so to you lower your bed. V'istamafkin lishta. Some give another interpretation. Yichbe asarsur. The agent should be lowered. Meaning, when a person dies, it's the opposite of pru'avu, of be fruitful and multiply. So therefore, in order to demonstrate the contrast, we lower the bed, which is the agent in the act of being fruitful and multiplying, in order to indicate that there was a lack of human being who was a fruit of the world. And it's interesting, the Chazam Sofer says that's why we cover the mirrors in the house as well.
Agent of what?
Agent of procreation. Catalyst for procreation. bed, the marriage bed.
Medium by which it's achieved.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Okay? Symbolic.
It's very simple.
So what is the mirror?
No, it says cover the mirrors for that too, because mirrors are for the purpose of adorning yourself, vanity, romantic purpose things, so therefore you cover the mirrors. That's what the Chasam Sofer says here at the bottom. Because nobody knows why we cover the mirrors. I always say cover the mirrors so people don't look at themselves in the face. There are those who say it's because they're demons, but he says it's neither. He says in order, because of the symbolism of diminishing the power of procreation in the house. It's an interesting concept, even if you don't subscribe to it.
So you don't dress up with your spouse. I understand. What's the term of procreation?
With a mirror? Because the mirror is used for adorning oneself.
There may have been some other meeting. Or not discussed.
So adorning yourself,
Yeah.
enticing your spouse.
Yeah. There's a medrash, in Egypt that they took mirrors and they used to look at the mirrors together. That's why the shiur was made out of the mirrors. So that's the same idea. Okay.
There are anthropologists who talk about the ancient use of mirrors in the act of procreation.
Okay, that might be part of it too. Says Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi Tarvei and Omri, the Tarvei and Moshe Rishim Melokish, both say Rishim Melokish. Chad Amar, one said, Mibnei Ma'yosha Mita Kfuya, why does he sleep on the lower bed? Kadesh Ner Balai, in order he should wake up at night because he's uncomfortable. V'nizkor, remember that he is in Avelus. Nizkor Shuavel. The Charon Amar, and the other one said, did Rocky try to get a minion? What happened to the people next door? I thought they're two Olsteins. What? Where's Rocky? Oh, he gave up? That's why he left? Okay. V'choron Amar, the other one said, Mitoshi Osha Gabi Mitok Fuya, because he's sleeping on a bed which is lowered. I know I messed up before. Let's go back to there. Rabbi Yoino, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th line down. Rabbi Yoino, Rabbi Yoino said, Tarvei B'Shem Rishim B'Losh, both the same B'Shem B'Losh, Chayamar B'nei Ma'yosha Mitakfuya. Why does he sleep on Lord Bek? They share Ner B'Laila. So that if he wakes up in the night, Nitzko Shu Avel, then he'll remember that he's an Avelus and prevent himself from doing something improper. The Charanam, the other said, Mitoshu Yasha Mitakwid, since he's sleeping in the lower bed, who nearby, that's going to wake him up at night. V'nitzka Shuavel, and then he's going to remember that he's an Avel. So one percent is to remind him if he wakes up, the other is for him to wake up and remember. Okay? So it says, the Gemara, Amar any koivas amita. If a person said, I don't want to lower my bed, I'll sleep somewhere else. I'm any Yosha al Gabi Asaf, I'll sleep on a bench. Ain't Shomilo. We don't listen to him because that's the halacha. You have to lower the beds regardless of when you use it lowered or not.
I'm confused. At first you said you lower the bed because it's symbolic of a change in the...
Yeah, now we're saying a more practical reason. There are many reasons being given. Right. It's not, doesn't follow consistently. Okay? Says, Amar any kovas amita. Person says again, I don't want to sleep lower my bed. I rain Yoshua Basavs will go sleep on the bench. Ain't Shemlo, we don't listen to it. Now, it's an interesting thing here. It's because he said, I don't want to lower my bed. But if he said, I'm lowering my bed, I want to sleep on the bench anyway, then show me low that we do listen to. It's a takon of the Rabbanan, you have to lower the beds. Right? Whether you sleep on it or not, you must lower the beds. That's the halacha.
Sleep in a higher bed?
Yeah. That's the interesting thing. You'll sleep on a higher bed as long as you lower the beds. I mean, I'm not sure. Sounds like technical possibility, but theoretically, it's possible, yeah.
If you lower your bed, you can sleep anywhere you want.
Right, that might be. Right.
Which which is not consistent with the notion that if you wake up at night, it'll remind you you're available. Because you're going to wake up at night.
Right. It would be consistent with the symbolism idea, but not with the reminder idea. That's right. Okay, Mastisin Lomarkin, our mission doesn't sound like this. Elo, it says, also, because it says when they come to console him, Kol the entire land, the entire nation sits on the ground, then he sits, this is the Kohen Gadol, who sits on the bench. That sounds like the Kohen Gadol, he can sit on a bench. So Kohen Hediot Lo. The regular Kohen has got to sit down to near the ground. Over Rabbim, it's only when he's in public. But if he's in private, he can do what he wants. Says the bottom line is, V'lo Avdin Kain. We do not do this, meaning we don't do Kfiyas Hamitos anymore. We do sit low, but we don't do Kfiyas Hamitos, we don't lower the beds. Okay? Doesn't say why, right. Kfiyas Hamitos. Now, this lowering the beds, when they did it, Pa'amim osa chashisha, sometimes it's 6 days, sometimes chamisha, 5 days, sometimes shlosha, arba, 4 days, sometimes shlosha, 3 days. Now here the Gilin Shas changes the gears around a little bit, the version of Gemara. He says, here, Bein HaShmoshos, not shisha, but, that's right, he says, instead of Be'er Shabbos, it says Bein HaShmoshos. If the Levaya took place twilight time, so Shisha, then the day which is just finished doesn't count, and the Kfiyas Hamitos begins the next day, which is 6, right? Erev Shabbos, he changed that one as well. Erev Shabbos, Chamisha. If it happens Erev Shabbos at twilight, so it's only 5 days, because it was the day before and the day after, because no Kfiyas Hamit on Shabbos. Yontif Lachar Shabbos, going to the next line, and if there's a Yontif after Shabbos, Arba, then you lose both Shabbos and Yontif. This is going according to opinion that Yontif doesn't interrupt Avelus. The Yerushalmi has an opinion that unless there were 3 days of Avelus before Yontif, Yontif doesn't interrupt Avelus. If 2 days of Rosh Hashanah come out after Shabbos, then you have only 3 days of Kriyas Hamita that whole Avelus. Chat Talmid mean the Rabbi Yimona. He told one of relatives of his wife, once he picked it up for Shabbos, whenever Shabbos comes to your Shiva, Shuv Eno Koifa, you don't have to put it down again. Kama Yomim, how many days need to pass before Shabbos begins, so you don't have to put it down again. Hayalo Rabbi Yaakov, how many days already passed? Rabbi Yaakov said, Shnei Yomim Hayalo. You need only 2 days, and then once you pick it up for Shabbos, you don't have to put it back down. Rabbi Yaakov said, Shlosha at 3 days. After 3 days, when Shabbos comes, you have to put it back down after Shabbos. Rabbi Chanina bar Papa Hori L'Kpaisa, he said to put the bed down, even if there's only 1 day left after Shabbos. And those who showed him in a dream, Yanki Marisa, because you were rebellious. In other words, you're too machmer, where Pa'aloch is, so once you pick it up for Shabbos, you don't have to put it back down again. Tani, we learned. Somebody lives in a hostel, a hotel. He doesn't have to lower his beds. People shouldn't say Chorosh, who is a magician. Who knows why he's sleeping down to the ground. Now they just say he's a camper, but then they would say the magician. A parent's father and mother-in-law, or one of his wife's relatives dies, he doesn't have to lower his own bed. However, he shouldn't put on adornments, mascara, blush. Of course, the man doesn't usually put this on, but it means, again, the kind of empathy with his wife. That's borrowed terminology. He should have empathy. He conducts himself as she is conducting. And vice versa. If her father or mother-in-law dies, one of her husband's relatives, so then she doesn't adorn herself, she follows his lead. So that's only if it's your father-in-law or mother-in-law. One of the other relatives, such as brothers-in-law, sisters-in-law, lo, then that doesn't apply. You don't have to even be solidarity with them. Rabbi Bar Kohen Amarkum Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Bar Kohen said for Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Yehuda Pazi said B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan B'Dori Mo. Also, it's only if you live together with the father-in-law and mother-in-law previously, so you became like a member of family. Then even the child who's not their natural progeny has to be in solidarity, but otherwise no. Kam Rabbi Yossi im Rabbi Yehuda Bar Pazi. So Rabbi Yossi got up and went to talk to Rabbi Yehuda Bar Pazi. He said to him, did you hear this distinction from your father, the distinction between living with you and not living with you? Amalei responded, no, my father didn't say that. Achoy did say the Bar Nechemia mace. Rather, the brother of the wife of Bar Nechemia died. And they went and asked Bar Nechemia, do we have to lower your bed? So he said, it's not necessary because it's not a father-in-law or mother-in-law, it's just a brother-in-law. Now, the next couple lines are superfluous. They really appear in Ramadaf, and they here appear, but they have by mistake. But you get the idea. Mali cross Shema. L'sbal is a person in this situation where his brother-in-law died, allowed to say Shema and daven. Amalei said yes. The Shemini min adot. So from here, Haresha also came a mason bekever is vowed with a mason bury him. Vigion as Kriya Shema, and the time for Kriya Shema comes. Harei perish l'makom talo. He goes to a holy place. Oisik Vulovich his fill, puts his fill in Kriya Shema, and puts on the read Shema, Umis Paulo and davens. Okay, Shabbos Mafsekas. So that means even certainly if you're brother-in-law, you go when you daven somewhere. They said that Shabbos counts as part of Shiva. It doesn't interrupt it. Stop Shiva only, but they do not count. Now again, where they do not count is only if you didn't kept less than 3 days before Yontif. According to Yerushalmi Shita, they need to keep at least 3 days for Yontif to break. So if you didn't keep 3 days and Yontif doesn't break, it doesn't count either. Okay? Now, says the Gemara, Rabbi Simon said, B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan, Shumineshu Mutar B'Tash Mishamita. They don't count the Yom Tovim because during Yontif you're allowed to have relations with your wife. I don't think people ask in that way. I think it's only, I think you're not allowed to do anything in private, no matter what. But then they had this opinion that on Yontif, for even others allowed to have relations with his wife. And that's why it doesn't count as part of Shiva. Rabbi Yehuda came mad up with Rabbi Yehuda Simon. Armalani said to him, Achamin Kol Tamidav, Rabbi Yochanan. This is what also Rabbi Yochanan say, Lo Shama Bar Nashmi Neo Dam Milsa. Nobody heard from Rabbi Yochanan the statement that an Avel on Yontif is allowed to have relations. Elavuchad your father. Rabbi Yaakov said, in these Amres, if it was talking about, if Rabbi Yochanan made the statement, it was Lois Amres. It was only made Elamin Ilmin Milaya as part of the category of these words. The Hachin that it's not sure. It could be either way. In other words, Rabbi Yochanan would certainly never been matir outright to have relations on Yontif when a person's not available, but it was something which he was talking about as a theoretical possibility. Say Rabbi Yeshua, which was Ben Levi, trial says an Avos is not allowed to have relations. Damrei Simon Shem B'Shub Levi, Simon's the neighbor of Shub Levi. Halo Amru, they say, Ein Avel Baragel, there is no Avelus Ani Yontif, Ela Ach Sharabim Nogi Bobatzina. But the masses are accustomed to keep the Avelus in private. What is in private? He's forbidden to have marital relations. As soon as the kasha regular also the yontif, okay, they're not allowed to have tash mishamita, not allowed to relations, but nevertheless doesn't count as part of shiva, right? Av Shabbos, let's say Shabbos also, if a servant Tashmita, since the other can't have relations with his wife on Shabbos, low salad should not be part and parcel of Shiva, we know it is. So Rabbi said, Efshel shiur below rail. It's possible to have shiur without a yontif. Aliyah shal shiur below Shabbos. It's not possible to have shiur without a Shabbos. And therefore, they said Shabbos always counts as part of shiva because of the necessity of going through a Shabbos every week. Okay, next Mishnah. Yuzayim Raf. Rabbi Lezer Omer.
I don't recall the Bali going into so much detail with Vegas.
Oh, it has a lot, but I don't recall either. We had it 7.5 years ago, and it's I only lived it once, so I don't remember. But I don't think so. Okay, Rabbi Lezer Omer. Top Yuzayim Raf. By the way, as I mentioned, Monday is due date. D-Day. We'll learn one more day this week, and then Monday, for sure. I mean, we might even finish Thursday night, but we'll make the siyum Monday. Okay? Rabbi Lezer Omer, Mishachar Beis Midrash, once Beis Midrash is destroyed, Atzeres Shabbos, Shavuos is like Shabbos, meaning it counts as part of Shiva and doesn't stop Shiva. Why is that? Because it's only one day, and there are no korbanos. Right? So therefore it doesn't have the status of Yontif. Gamliel Omer, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippurim, Kiragolim, they're like Yom Tovim, and they stop Avilus. Chachamim Lokadiv Zev Lokadiv Zen. Now either of these guys, Ela Teres Kiragolim Shavuos is like Yom Tovim, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippurim like Shabbos, that they don't count to stop. Now we paskin, of course, that all of them stop, right? The Beis Rabbi Levi Omri, the Beis Rabbi Yanai Omri, now Rabbi Yanai, they said, Atzeres Oila Shiva Kiragolim. That's a fascinating concept. He was super mako. He said Shavuos counts as 7 days. Towards Shloshim counts as 7 days. The 1 day Shavuos counts as 7 days because it's no worse than the Yontif. The Yontif is 7 days Shavuos is 7 days. No, but it's the 1 day of Shavuos that counts as 7 days, not the days afterwards. Look at here. Bon Krum Rabbi Yossi says, as for Rabbi Yossi, Shlosh Livnei Atzeres. So if that's the case, if you have 3 days before Shavuos, Vatzeres Shiva, and Shavuos itself is 7, Harei Asara, is that 10 days altogether? Right? And you already counted 10 days towards your Shloshim, even though it's actually in practicality 4. Or, and next word should be instead of Elo, Olo, or not. Maybe say even more than that. Shlosh Livnei Atzeres. You have 3 days before Atzeres. Then they count as Shiva in themselves because they expand to fill the available space. But Atzeres Shiva and Atzeres itself is the 7 days. Harei Arba, so it's 14 altogether. Okay? So in 4 days, I got 14 days. Rabbi said, what's the next word? I can't read it. But I think it's V'keni. It is V'keni? So he says, V'keni, is that true? It can't go that far. Rather, Yom Echad Livnei Atzeres, if you start Avelis 1 day before Shavuos, Mona Chamish Lacha Atzeres, then you have the 1 day before Shavuos, and 5 days, that period there is superfluous. 5 days after Shavuos, because you have one day before, 1 day Shavuos, 5 days afterwards. Shtayv, you have 2 days before Shavuos, Mona Arba. You count 4 days after Shavuos. 2, 1, and 4. Shlosh, if you have 3 days before Shavuos, then Bala Menik Zer Shiva, you no longer have to keep Shiva afterwards. Why? Because Shavuos cancels. However, Shloshim follows the regular pattern. This is an important point. Shloshim continues no matter what, unless you have a second Yontif afterwards, like your Yom Kippur and Sukkot. But otherwise, Shloshim, the meter keeps on ticking. The regular Shloshim meter. Okay? Says the Gemara, time will Amar appointed one cannot go to visit an Avel. Lo Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, not Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, even on a courtesy call. On Rabbi Shmuel Bar Rabbi Yitzchak, Shmuel Bar Yitzchak said, nah, Yom Kippurim Shchalos b'Shabbos, Yom Kippur Shabbos Marim B'Ponim, then he can go visit Novel. Kadol, like a case of Chizki Avali Uvda, he had a case for his Navelos. Soker Rabbanan L'Gabei. They were Rabbi so that Mechamele Bapin to show themselves to his face, but some Rabbi on Yom Kippur. So he said back there, Klu Amru Ein Marim Ponim. You know what? It can't be a difference between Yom Kippur and Shabbos, regular Shabbos. Why is that? Because Klum Amru Eimar and putting Lo Rosh Hashanah and Kippurim. What reason they give not to greet one's Rebbe's, not Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur? Lo Minat Tfilah. It's not because there's extended amount of davening. They didn't daven in the 6:30 Yom Kippur minute, which we have in Chicago. But then they daven. It's because the extended amount of davening, so it's just no time. Well, if that's the case, Shani Yom Kippur Shacharis b'Shabbos, Shani Yom Kippur Shacharis b'Chol. No difference between Yom Kippur comes on Shabbos and the Yom Kippur comes on a weekday. Regardless, you should not be allowed to be mar upon him to go visiting because there's too much davening to do. Okay, says the Mishnah further. And Korin. Now on Yotiv, one does not tear kriya. The little chotim, one does not reveal a shoulder. These are all customs of Avelus. Lo Marvin, one does not have the first meal which is provided by outsiders. To give that first meal on regular high-level beds or couches, because it's Yontif. You can't put your bed low.
You eat in the bed?
Well, couches were called beds.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't really a bed.
But we're not referring now to the items with the straps, are we?
No, we're referring to couches they used to eat on.
How do you lower a couch?
Chop off its legs? I'm not sure how, but they were supposed to. If you ask the questions beyond my level of expertise, I'm not a carpenter. Okay. Says Gemara. If I was a carpenter, I probably wouldn't know either, but I'm not a carpenter. Says Gemara further. Where am I? Vein Malichem Beisav, some in the Mishnah. One doesn't bring stuff to the Ovel's house. General. Lo b'tavla, not on a tablet. Lo b'skulto, nor a fancy tray. Lo b'kani, nor in fancy baskets. Ela b'sali, in simple baskets. Vein on birchas Avil Moed. One cannot say the bracha to the mourners on the Moed and Chol Moed. If the death occurred then. I will only be sure they stand in line. Menachmi and Potir Misarabim, and they say Nechama, and everybody is tempted to go home. It's not the same elaborate ritual which you normally have. People are close enough that they are suitable to mourn with the person who's in mourning. It's a show solidarity, so they're allowed actually to even do what? To participate in the Nichum Avelim and Yotif. And it's like we learned, or at the time that we learned, Chacham Shemes. If a Chacham dies, then Krovav, his relatives, Afilu Krovim Shein Mulim B'Sabo Love, B'Sabo, and even those who are not suitable mourning can mourn as well. Kadar Ayvun Damach Muado. And this is like the case where it should be actually a co-Krovav. Afilu Krovim Shein Mulim B'Sabo. Even everybody's his relative. Even relatives who normally are not accustomed to mourn, but since it's time of Chacham, they participate in the mourning. Kadar like found case Ayvun Damach Muado. Ayvun died on Chol Moed. V'lo not alei Raimona Chesed. Raimona did not do Chesed of coming to his Levaya. It was a different city. V'avun Tzipori Amrei, and the people Tzipori Rabbi Yomona. What? Oh, Gamal makes more sense. Sorry. Well, Gamal Chesed. You didn't do Gemilas Chasayin towards him. V'avun Tzipori Amrei, and the Tzipori, which the Sir Minor said, Agni Sona. To his death, he hated him. Nice comment, huh? And one hated Rabbi Avun until he died. So after the Yom Tov was over, however, Raimona Avalei Ikre gave him a special honor of Amar Kumeon, and he went and said to everybody, at the time there it says Chacham Shemes, Hakol Krovav, every Chacham dies, everybody's his relative. Bino Davun Gabei. That's only, however, when we're by him. But we were in Sipori and he was in Tveria. That's why I didn't display Avelus on Yontif, not because they didn't have respect for him. Hakrei min melel. If somebody does kriya from the melel. The melel is like a rip when the garment is already there and had been torn already. So it's not really ripping the fabric, but rather a previous rip. Mina shalol. It's something which had also been joined together with a broader weave. Not a broader weave, a broader sewing. Mina radid. A radid is like something like a necklace or something which you wear on your neck. It's not part and parcel of your garments. Ain't no karakar. It's not going to be kriya. Mina ichoi, from something which is raised sort of very tough, it's either part of the weave of the fabric or something which is that strong, how raised the kara, that's kriya. Ezu ichui, what's something which is part of the weave? Any time when it's visible mending. Or Rabbi Yaakov Shema Kol Manikra didn't know was there. Asar kroin asuim beichui. If you rip for 10 kriya for 10 different reasons, you're not allowed to ever fix it. Hakrel Aviv Mosam son's father and mother. Farabo Shalim the Chachman, his Rebbe taught him wisdom. Nosiane, the leader of the generation. Falab Basin on the head of the court of the generation. Shmuel Sarotza said he ripped on bad rumors. Vakil Hashem, and he heard blasphemy, God's name being cursed. Slave as the Torah, he heard saw the Torah being burnt. Yerushalmi, if he sees Yerushalayim, the ruins. Beis Hamikdash sees ruins of Beis Hamikdash. On these 10 things, if he tears kriya, he cannot ever mend it properly. Now, first things first. On his father and his mother and his Rebbe taught him wisdom. Minana, we know this because it says, Elisha saw Elio going up in a chariot of fire to heavens for Mitzayik, and he cried, Avi, Avi, my father, which is like Avi V'imi, my father and mother. Rechav Yisrael, the chariot of Israel, Paroshav, and its horsemen, and they turned kriya. So the Gemara asks, right? Mosin boy, Krumi Rabbi Mosin asked him for Rabbi Yochanan, excuse me. Umei Elisha on Lamedi, for Elisha we can learn, did Elio die? No, so there's no kriya there. So how can we learn from what he did, kriya for anybody else? He didn't have to rip. Says the Gemara, Amalei, so he said, Mosun. No, be patient. Ma Meshu Mistalik. It's a great echo. There's actually no way you'll say shofar in this building. See? Aren't we off to the side?
Yeah, but it's echo because there's no one in the room. There's no other...
Yeah, all right. Anyway. Never been in Rosh Hashanah. Okay, they take out the echo for Rosh Hashanah. They put it in the side room. All right. Says the Gemara further. So says Mishum Istalek, Ma Meis Mishum Istalek Odein Rei, just like a dead person when he goes away, you no longer see him. Kach said Mishum Istalek, so too here Elio, once he moved, Od Loro, they didn't say him anymore, and therefore it's like death vis-a-vis Kriya. Kishem Shekorin al Chachamim, now here's a very interesting word, just like you tear Kriya on Chachamim, on wise men, Kach Korin al Talmidim, you also do Kriya on their students. Eizu Talmid Chacham, it's one of the rare cases where the word Talmid Chacham appears in the Yerushalmi. Okay? It doesn't mean what it means in Babli. It means rather, who's the Talmid Chacham? A little Chacham, Chizkiah said, Kol Shoshana Alachos, V'od Torah. Anybody learned Talachos? And a little bit of Torah at least, Tanakh. Even then, the problem is that people learning Tanakh, so they try to get people to learn Tanakh. But at the beginning with, he has to learn a little bit of Torah. Or once upon a time, the Talmid Chacham had to know some Torah. I feel halachos now, even halachos by themselves suffice. Rav Shamil said, if anybody doesn't work, name Yishnasa because he wants to learn, includes all of you holy people here this evening. All of you guys. Okay, Tati. Oh, sorry. Tati, we learned. So anybody who asks a question, when you can respond intelligibly, that's a Talmid Chacham. Or Rav Yeshua said, Kagon Anan, like we, the Rav Ravinan, when we were young, I guess, the Ravinan Hashchina Law, our Rebbes used to ask us questions, they would pay attention to us, but on even long we used to answer the questions. Or Rabbi knows to explain his learning. Vanan, we, Afilu Rav Ravanin, even the great ones among us, Lo Chachmi, do not know Mevarim Asdisin to explain a Mishnah properly. Nebuch. Okay, we're so ignorant. Eizu Rabbi, who's your Rabbi? We have to tell Kriya. Kosher Pasal Tchila, anybody who first taught you Torah. The Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Kosher of Talmud Omer, from who you learn most of your understanding. Rabbi Lezer Omer Kosher, anybody illuminated his eyes. the Mishnaso in his learning, even one thing. Rav Osher Rabbi Yochanan said, halacha that you do kriya only on Kedivri Mishom, or like Yibin said, kosher otamuni men something for you learn most of your learning. Lama Rabbi Yehuda, why did he say halacha? Rabbi Yehuda made that same before, because he's Tanya Machlik goes those switch around the name, so he wanted to say halacha like the concept, not like the person. Rabbi Lezer Kah. Al Shepasal Chil, Rabbi Lezer to kriya on his olive base Rabbi, who taught him olive base. Because that's the first, foundation. They said the girl only called Rebbe, so the person taught him olive base, the Vilna Gaon, because that was what he needed. The rest he could learn on his own. Okay, says Gemara. That's right. I'm Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef said. Oh, I skipped. Shmuel Chatz Asher Eina Mishnasu. Shmuel did Cholatz. He bared his shoulder, which is a sign of Avelis in the old days. On some, he illuminated his eyes in the Mishnah. Ma'ina Mishnasu. What did this person illuminate his eyes in the Mishnah? Rabbi Yosef Mishnei Maftechos. The Mishnah says that when they used to open the Beis Hamikdash, there were two sets of keys. Echad Yorlames Beis Hashechi. One you had to stick your hand in up to the shoulder and turn around like this to open, because there was just a hole in the door. And the key was in the inside, so you had to stick it in your hand and turn around. That was one. And one shoe that he opened directly, right? Because the lock was on the inside. Was when you go down to the arm of the armpit. He used to put his hand in and armor down until he could turn around and open it up from the inside. Based on the president of the congregation and on the leader of the court. Vashmus also the bad news they do kriya, because it says when they heard Shaul died and King Saul, so David ripped his clothes, right? Vayispedu, and they eulogized, Vayibku, and they cried, Vayitsum, and they fasted Erev till nightfall. Al Shaul, Zanos, he was the leader. Vayyon, son to Abbas, who was the head of the court. V'alam Hashem Abbas, on the nation of God, and on the house of Israel, because they died in sword, Elushmus rose, that's bad news. I'll kill us Hashem, and I know that you rip kriya when you hear God being cursed, because it says, Vayikashma Mel Chizkiel, when Chizkiel heard his divrei Rav Shokeh, the words of Rav Shokeh was blaspheming God outside Yerushalayim. Vayikras, because he ripped his clothes, Malikor al Kilos Akum, there was one rip on clothes, even when somebody hears the curse come from a goy. So by them, Rav Shekah Akum, he said Rav Shekah was a guy, Haya Korin, of course you do kriya, because you see the Chizkiel do kriya. Uman them are Yehudi, but according to the opinion, it was a Jewish Benedict Darnell, and kriya don't do kriya if a guy turns coats. Okay? Tanya we learned, Rabbi Yeshua said, Echot Sheshama Kilas Hashem Yisrael. If somebody heard Hashem being cursed by a Jew, Echot Sheshama Kilas Hashem in Akum, or from a Goy, Chayli Koraf to kriya. My timer, why? Because the pasuk says, Hinei ani Hashem Elokei Kol Basra, and God, the Lord of all flesh. And I made it play the verse, anything hidden from me. Ma'al Korbis Manaseh. We do kriya in our day and age. Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Yerushalmi Moed Kattan said, Mishul Rabba got funny, never, because there's so many blasphemers today. Possibly the crow, we do not do kriya. Why? Because too much to rip, right? Malikor can do kriya even if you hear God being cursed in one of his nicknames, not his real name. Says Mother Shmimi Adot, let's hear from here. This is a cool story. It's a cool story. Hashem, wake up for this one. Hashem is walking down the highway. It's family Kuti, so one guy came along. He was blaspheming. Five of course, Hashem ripped his clothing. The guy cursed again. Ripped his clothing. But now he got fed up. Okay, came down from his donkey. He gave him a fist inside his heart, and the guy actually kicked the proverbial bucket. He said to him as he was lying there against dying, Rasha, evildoer, Islam does your mother have enough garments to provide me? You're making me rip and rip and rip. I can't take it anymore. So therefore he killed him. And he didn't have to do any more ripping.
It's any younger joke.
It's any younger joke. Okay. So anyway, that's what else is Lakish. Hadamra, now Goyim, they don't know the actual Shem Hashem. If they're cursing Hashem by one of his foreign language nicknames. Hadamra Tisha Shekoin al Kinuyim, you rip when you hear the description of God, Karm Bizmanazeh, do Kriya also Bizmanazeh.
Maybe they're cursing something else.
I guess he knew somehow. Otherwise, you're right, it wouldn't make any sense. I'll say a turn being burned, how do you know that? It says when the Jew read 3 or 4 stanzas of the verse, Mao shosh losses for what is 3 or 4 stanzas? Tlas Arab psukim, 3 or 4 psukim, came to get Basakhishi, went to get the first part, 5th pasuk in Eicha. Ki Hashem Ogorob She Hashem afflicted her because of its many sins. Miyad Yivayikre B'tar so fair says that the king ripped the scroll, which was the Megillah of Eicha, with a razor. So in any event, at that time they ripped their clothing. I'm sorry. They didn't. We're not afraid. They didn't rip their clothing. The people who were standing with the king. That tells us that they should have ripped their clothing at that point, even though they didn't. Then we see that when you rip your clothing on the Torah, or for that matter, any part of the Torah, not just the Chumash, but your Nove being burnt.
I'm confused by one point. If a goy curses
Yeah.
the name of the Lord
Mm-hmm.
with the nickname,
Yeah.
you're assuming that the goy does not worship.
No, he does. He does. He says G-D-D-MMIT.
But his G-D is
Mhm.
not the same.
Right, we're assuming it's a case where it is, like a Christian. That's what we're assuming. Otherwise, you're correct. Of course. It says, curse Ra. So it makes no difference to us.
But why would... I get it. I don't get it, but I understand.
So if a Buddhist or a Hindu curses their God,
Buddha.
We don't care.
We don't care. I mean, we care in the sense of
And if a
I encourage them, right? So yeah.
and if a Christian
curses Yashka.
curses, yeah, we
We
don't
don't
care about that either.
Right. We're very liberal, to a point. Okay. Says my friend, let's just finish the Amud.
It was Reish Lakish that killed this guy because he himself.
Yeah, he was a tough guy, right. Somebody sees this Talmud Chacham who dies, Kirua Sefer Torah Shenisraf. It's as if he sees the Sefer Torah being burned. I've said, Yovel I make something bad before me. In time to Klum Kol if I tasted anything that day I saw Talmud Chacham die. Rabbi Yonah was in Tzor, Katshama the Domach Brei Rabbi Avo, when he heard that the son of Rabbi Avo died, which I guess was Talmud Chacham. Even though he ate cheese with Shosma and drank water that day, Aski Tzomo Yom, he completed the day in fasting. Rabbi Boav, Rabbi Chuna Bar Chia, you see when they're both sitting. Asas Namitz, a certain animal came, a certain a weasel or something. No, a certain bird came, but Chataf the field of Rabbi Chuna Bar Chia, and grabbed the tongue of Chuna Bar Chia. Tzadar Rabbi grabbed the bird or hunted down, and he choked it to death. Rabbi Chia said, "Woo, shoo, old man, were you not to have saved my tefillin from a bird? They save a store, and the tefillin would have been destroyed by him. It would be like third being bird. It would have had the first fast." Armalazer said about dying, not Lazu. You still think that's true? Canaan Rabbi Mishem Rav, so Rabbi said name Rav. Ain't coin ela Sefer Torah shesorva melchiso. You only do rice rip kriya on a Sefer Torah, not filling, which is burnt not by a regular guy, but by a king, bizroa, with force. Going Yoyakim, Melchi Yoshio, Ben Yoshio, Melchi Chaver, like Yoyakim and Yoshio, King Yehuda and its friends. Ula Biria B'Shel and Rabbi Lezer Shem Rechina said, "Haro Sefer Torah Shnisa v'Siyas Sefer Torah being burned. Chayiv Likro. You have to do 2 kriyas. One al Gvilvniats on the parchment, Aksav Niatzma, and on the writing by itself. My time of why because it says Achrei Sof HaMelech Samgila, after the king burnt the Megillah, that was Eicha, V'Esad Dvarim, Esad Dvarim, and the words. Esad Megillah is Zagvil, that's the parchment. V'Esad Dvarim, and the words Zag Sav, that's the writing. Rabbi Brechin, Rabbi Chebel, Ula Beria, Rabbi Lazar, Shem Mechina said, Atzah Kosh Baruch, very famous, comes at the end of Tainus in the Bavli. Atzah Kosh Baruch Lasos Rosh Chuleh Tzadikim Los Ilavo. It's going to be a dance master for the Tzadikim for the world to come. Mataima or Pasuk teaches us this: Yoshisu libchem l'cheilah. They put your hearts to its strength. L'chulak, put it to it's written as if it says l'chula, which is a circle. But tzadikim arasobem, so tzadikim all stand equidistant from a Kosh Baruch Hu, so to speak, on all points in the circle, and they point at Hashem. And they say, Kizel Elokim Elokeinu Olam Voed. He is our God. Vinagenu al mus. He will take us al mus. This is actually Shir Shayom for tomorrow, right? Vinagenu al mus is that Wednesday Shir Shayom. What's al mus? Some main interpretations. Amus, one is Balimus, with hiddenness. Allah, like Hitalem is to hide. Amus, some say Amus means with youth, Bizrizus, with haste. Amus, some say Amus means Kilen Ulamisa, like young lads who go quickly from place to place. So it says, Umar, Tirgam Akilos Asnosira. Akilos Asnosira is one of the translated Torah, might have been included, not true. It says Olam Shem B'Mavis. He should take us into a world where there is no death. But tzaddikim Maya Mosabeso, and the tzaddikim show, going back to the circle of eventual circle, they point at Hashem with their fingers and they say, Vaymer Kizel Elokim Elokeinu Olam Vaed. He is our God, our Lord forever. Huinagenu Amus. He leads us Amus. Huinagenu Olam Hazeh leads us in the world, this world. Huinagenu Olam Vaed leads us in the world to come as well. Okay, we will stop here for today. No shiur tomorrow night. Thursday night, I believe, we'll finish. Monday night is the Siyum and the beginning of Yevamos.